created them. And actually, this is what we face now. If we look at what's been happening, what we see is that the neoliberal capitalists are trying to repair the machine that's causing the problem. And what we have to do is go, no, we don't need that machine. We want another one. That's what we have to do. If you go back and just look at what sort of initiated it, first of all, we had the bankers that were essentially selling subprime mortgages. Now, the clue here is in the name, subprime. There's the clue, not the best, a little bit dodgy. They could have called it shit plus, but they thought, no, they're not so. Okay, that's the clue. Now, if you ask the banker, what are you doing? They'd say, well, we're doing something very clever. No, what exactly is it? Well, we're selling loans to people who can't pay them back. They could only get away with it by securitization, which was the part that was important, where they bundled up loans and sold them on as financial products. And the way that they could actually do that, you know, they were bunching up sort of like good properties, maybe a bit of Buckingham Palace, maybe the Queen Mum lost something on the Gigi's, I don't know. You know, and you put it in with a little bit of a shit property and maybe a twig and some yogurt and you sell it all. Because, you know, all that money is swirling around the system because we've actually been financialised. That's what happened. We became financialised. People's housing, they've stopped building council houses effectively. Right? This is why people are being forced onto a housing market, into a private housing market. They built 300 council houses last year. There are 444 councils. We couldn't even build a whole council house in each council. It's like we PFI'd and subcontracted the thing out to fucking Kinder Egg or someone, and they couldn't quite get it together. Now this is utter madness that people have in the property market. People's pensions then get suddenly shoved off and you've got to get a private pension plan. People's students have to pay for their education, you have to borrow money. I'm going to wait for the plane. If you want to build schools or universities or hospitals, now you have to put it out to PFI contracts. So we're privatising all of that, and that money goes swilling around, having to find a home, having to find its 10% increase, and what you have to do is therefore the hedge funds are out there taking that money in to leverage up and essentially have fucked it all up. Now, at this point, what should happen when the bankers went to Gordon Brown and said, look, we're very sorry, but we've broken everything. And Gordon Brown, well, what are you going to do? Well, we'd like some more money. Okay, you won't do it again. No, we won't. At this point, we should have just stepped back and go, hang on a minute. We're using the same thinking that we used when we created the problem. Actually, what we need to be looking at is how we create alternatives to this. We need to be asking, what we've essentially seen over the past 30 years is the state has withdrawn from the public areas of our lives. Housing, in pensions, in job security, in building local amenities and communities, it's withdrawn and pushed it onto the private sector. But as far as, you know, everything else they want to find out about. You know, ID cards and you know, stop and search and all this kind of stuff isn't entering into our private life. What we need to see is a reversal of that. We need to see that idea reversed. So we claim the public areas and claim them as ours. It's our utilities that are run for our benefit and not for the benefit of the rich. Does water taste any better since it was privatised? Is it cheaper since it was privatised? Should the trains get any better since they were privatised? No, they're ours. We need to take them back. We need to claim them. Thank you for that clap, that was really well timed. Well done. What we need to be doing now is to build a movement that makes demands where we change and destroy, where we destroy laissez-faire capitalism. That's what we have to do. You can't really modify it, we just have to kill it. And that's what we have to do. And over the next few days you're going to be hearing lots of announcements about the G20, you're going to hear lots of announcements about banks and banking regulations and all. There's lots of myths and there's lots of misinformation. The misinformation and myth, for a start, you know, people put it around that we've nationalised the banks. We haven't nationalised the banks. We've subsidised the banks. We've given them free money. We haven't nationalised them because we're not in control of them. If we'd nationalised them, we'd be in there at the weekend photocopying our ass and phoning Australia or whatever. It would be ours to play with. We need to nationalise the banks. That's what we need to do. We need to take them paid for them. They're ours. This is a matter of consumer affairs, I think you'll find. So what we need to do once we've got hold of the banks is we can then start to direct social policy. Royal Bank of Scotland's got 16 billion quid's worth of investment in fossil fuels. We can shut that down. We can shut down 16 billion quid's worth of carbon. We can shut that down. The Royal Bank of Scotland, we can break this stuff down and go back to the idea that banking and finance was actually about communities, where we would lend money or put money into a credit union or a building society, and our friends and our neighbours would be able to borrow that cash, and we'd all be linked together as a community. Now, what we also need to do is I need to just tell you about the messages that will come out about the G20 is they will start saying that they're going to act on tax havens. They're not. They're going to get a few bits of paper that say, when you ask for some information about an individual, we might give it to you. We've got to shut them down. We've got to shut down the tax havens because the Tax Justice Network estimate that we lose in this country approximately £100 billion a year in corporate tax evasion and avoidance. 100 billion. And then they have the audacity to publish one of those fucking adverts that says we're closing in, we know where you live, you're cheating on the benefits. We should be putting the DSS onto the bankers. They'd get them. They would get them. Shutting down these tax loopholes. Lord Brown, who is in fact the ex-chair of BP, admitted recently that the oil industry avoided tax, in subsidy and in tax avoidance, was amassing about 100 billion a year. We need to shut these down. We need, I'll tell you what, this is how absurd it has got. PFI contracts, the obsession with the market has led to the fact that now if you walk down Whitehall, those government buildings aren't owned by the government, they're not owned by the public. Her Majesty's Revenue and Customs is actually owned by Mapley, a company called Mapley, who are based... Your timing is impeccable. Her Majesty's Revenue and Customs actually have to lease their offices from a company called Mapley, who are based in Jersey. So the tax system rents its offices from tax dodgers. The Treasury has their building owned by Barclays Private Equity. So the tax system, once again, we're paying for tax dodgers. If you look at a place like the Home Office is owned by HSB Infrastructure based in Guernsey. We're paying tax money to tax dodgers. Stoke Mandeville Hospital belongs in Guernsey. The Metropolitan Police Training Centre belongs in Guernsey. All this money is going offshore, and we have to stop it. It got to the point where actually the MOD, we had a demo outside the MOD recently, because the MOD is actually owned by Henderson's, who are based in Jersey. So the MOD rent their office from tax dodgers. And we had a big demo, well, a little demo actually, I'll call it big because no one can check. But it was a big demo. Huge, there's thousands of us. And we had big banners demanding that the armed forces of this country do something sensible, namely invade Jersey and get the title deeds back.